Hi, and welcome to this week's Three Legs, Four Wheels F1 podcast. It's Paul here with
Dan.
Chris.
Lee.
So he's finally world champion then.
Yeah. Congratulations,
Congratulations to Lewis Hamilton. Dominant second half of the season. That was just incredible.
It's taken him all this time to catch up with Booker T.
Yes.
He's got green onions.
5 times world champion.
5 times.
5 times.
So Booker T and Juan Manuel Fangio are the same person. There's a conspiracy theory for you.
No, that's quite a good conspiracy theory, actually.
But yeah, for the second year on the trot, he does it at the Mexican Grand Prix. And by not finishing on the podium.
I was just going to say, for someone that sort of made their reputation in Formula One by pulling off some pretty spectacular drives, he doesn't half win championships in mundane fashion.
Yeah. The donuts at the end of the race were pretty cool, though.
Yes.
That was good driving.
And after last year, you know, so the whole sort of finishing 9th and still being world champion, they had to make a special parking place for the F1 world champion.
That's a good idea.
I thought it was a good idea.
Yeah, I thought it was a good touch.
Yeah, before the race, I don't know if you saw, there was an article came out saying that F1 had to have 3 contingency plans in place just for what happened. He finished on the podium and won the title, didn't finish on the podium and won the title, or didn't win the title. So they actually had 3 methods of what they were going to do at the end of the race, depending on how things played out.
Well, they must have had a special 1, 2, and 3, and then a special off the grid.
Yeah, and as it turned out, they used the off the podium one in the end.
It's a shame. It's always a bit anticlimactic, isn't it, when your champion isn't on the podium?
Yeah. Yeah, as you say, Hamilton appears to be the master at doing that.
Yeah.
Prostian.
2014 he won the championship by winning the race, didn't he?
Well,
Is that the only time he's done it?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
2015 he won in Austin, didn't he, to win the championship?
Yeah. 8, he was...
2008 he finished 5th,
Yeah.
Last year he was 9th. And this year he was, 4th?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
He'll do it again one of these days.
I think he'll do it for the next 2 years.
And ironically, 2016 won the last race of the season, didn't win the championship.
Yeah. But tried his very hardest to win the race as slow as he possibly could.
Yeah.
But this weekend's race just gone. Interesting.
Was it?
I don't think it was an
I
interesting
thought it
race.
was boring as fuck.
I think it was interesting over the course of the weekend because it's brought up a lot of questions about Pirelli once again because nobody had a clue what was going on.
That's
because
interesting. That's again is boring tire talk.
Well, there was a hell of a lot going on in the race in the midfield.
Yeah, there was a lot going on in the midfield, but lots of it felt a little bit pointless.
Well, a lot of the racing was below 11th place.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so in that regard, was pointless.
yeah.
It felt to me like it was the epitome of a race that was done in turn 1 or very near.
Yeah.
Like the only real
Well, no, I wouldn't say it was done in
the
turn
only
1.
the only outstanding thing was watching Vettel. Like Vettel's drive was pretty fucking good.
Because Vettel was 4th and Hamilton was 2nd and Ricciardo was 3rd and neither of them finished in those positions.
No,
So,
I meant the win.
yeah.
You know, it was clear as soon as that gap was built up that it was kind of because at one point I think
that was like watching Lewis Hamilton win a race.
it was more like watching Sebastian Vettel win a race. It was very Red Bull Vettel win. You're breaking the DRS and then slowly gapping everybody while they were squabbling with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so do you need to turn my engine down? If you do, then just do it.
Yeah,
Sets fastest lap.
very Seb like.
Yeah.
Right, usual review from the back.
Go for it.
You put McLaren first, but I don't think it should be. I think it should be Haas.
Well, we had Haas first last week in Austin, but I think McLaren's more of a talking point, which is why I put them first. Because,
Well, yeah, it's us.
No, but it is more of a talking point because, all right, okay, Alonso didn't finish.
His race was over at the first corner when he got that extra front wing.
Yeah, he picked up a Force India front wing, which he was carrying for a few laps, and which then
Damaged his cooling system.
and then caused him to retire. But But when you look at the efforts of his teammate, Stoffel Van Dorn, who has
It
been...
would have been nice to see him during the race,
Yeah.
building his way up to 8th place.
Yeah, he was... Van Dorn's been less impressive, especially in the second half of this season, and ever since he found out he wasn't going to be in McLaren next year. But in Mexico, he was quite quiet and fast for a change during the race. I mean, not during qualifying or any of the practice sessions. And managed to just squeeze his way through the field from being essentially last place all the way up to 8th and scored some points for a change.
It would have been really nice to have Alonso finish and hopefully Van Dorn finish above him just to show,
that he can. Yeah, it would have been. The talking point I was going to go with was if Van Dorn was 8th and we're all convinced pretty much that Fernando Alonso is better than Stoffel Van Dorn, where would McLaren have ended up?
6th or 7th.
Best of the rest.
possibly, but just because Alonso is better than Van Dorn doesn't mean that Van Dorn cannot finish any race ahead of Alonso.
No, absolutely.
I don't think he'd have finished that race ahead of Alonso.
Also,
It didn't
McLaren,
look like it at the start, but who knows?
McLaren were the slowest in the speed traps over the weekend as well. By a long way. There was something like 15 miles per hour down on Ferrari, who were the fastest.
That's what happens when you stop developing the car. Well, that's what happens at this stage of the season when you stop developing the car.
When you stop developing the car in March.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's been as bad as Alonso said it has. And I think they had new things from Spain, but I think
Nothing has been as bad as Alonso says it is.
he was very. I don't know. He was very, very realistic in his media pit interviews afterwards. You know, it was a very sort of resigned. Oh well, there was nothing we could do about it. It's just one of those things. Which has he given up complaining now because there's nothing to complain about?
Where you have no one to blame.
Well, no one's a better complainer than he is, and he's proved that, so he doesn't feel he needs to do any more.
But bravo, Stoffel Van Dorn.
Yeah.
Who knows? He might be Formula E champion next season.
Yeah, which team is he with in Formula E?
It's Mercedes one, isn't it?
Is it
Mercedes.
HWA.
yeah.
Is it HWA that he's driving for?
HWA along with Gary Paffett.
He was slowest in the first test he did, and second to last slowest in the second one.
He'd only been given, was it 2 days notice that he
Oh
was going to be in the
but
car?
I'm just pointing it out.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, he'd only got a couple of days' notice, and the car had a very hasty repair done on it because Paffett drove it first and stuck it in a wall.
Oh, okay. There you go. So it'd be interesting because it's a spec series. I know I'm repeating myself from a couple of weeks ago. Spec series, and we know the Van Dorn's good when everything is the same.
Well, just while we're talking McLaren and Formula E, did any of you read the rumours about what's gone on with Alonso?
No.
No,
The
because there's
rumours are
still
that
no confirmation for him.
that your
next year.
man that owns Formula E has personally
Alexander Agag.
has personally put up 10 million for Alonso to drive in the Formula E, and
Well, if you were Van Dorn, would you not just be a little bit sick of that?
when Felipe Massa was asked about it, he turned around and said, "Oh, he said it would be great to have Alonso in Formula E." He said, "I'd love to race with him again as a competitor or as a teammate." And someone turned around, whoever was doing the interview, and said, "What? So do you think there's a realistic chance of him joining for the 1920 season?" And he said, "Well, sorry, would it be the 2021? How does it work?"
18,
The
19,
18-19 season
No,
starting
so
in
it'd be 90. Yeah.
six
Do you
weeks.
think there'd be any chance of seeing him in the 1920 season? And Massa said, "Who knows? It might be even sooner than that." He's got nothing to do so far apart from the
WEC.
WEC.
Can you imagine the look on Massa's face? That was like, "Yep, you're going to be teammates with Alonso next year. Oh, it'd be good to get the old team back together again." And we brought Rob Smedley in to be your race engineer. Oh, crap. Fernando has more electricity than you.
I think when you listen to Massa talk about Alonso, it's almost like Stockholm syndrome.
No,
he
it's
absolutely loves that man.
it's like listening to a heartbroken ex who hasn't quite gotten over it.
I know he still loves me. Right, Haas. Another bad weekend in Mexico, just like last year, really.
Yeah.
Although
And in Austin.
K-Mag did score points in Mexico last year, but 15th and 16th this time out.
The last two finishes.
Yeah.
I think they would have been last regardless of retirements as well. You know, they were last on pace, weren't they?
Oh, yeah, they
Yeah.
were really, really slow.
both
All
out,
weekend.
both out in Q1, just like last year.
The championship fight for that fourth spot appears to be diminishing quite quickly.
It's looking like fourth place is now pretty much Renault's to lose.
Yeah. So strange, isn't it? It's like, what is it? Is it the car just... Because realistically, what we thought was good about the Haas is they'd done what Williams had done when Williams was competitive and just built an all-round solid racing car.
But Mexico is one of the outlier circuits.
Oh, it's one of the freak
Be-
circuits.
Yeah, because of the because of how high it is and the air being thin. You'd imagine if you're building a good all-rounder car,
Yeah.
Mexico, Monaco, Singapore,
Singapore, yeah.
are
They're the ones that
the
aren't
ones you're
gonna
going to
do
be
it.
weak at.
Yeah, but that week, do you know what I mean? To go from fighting for fourth to well last,
Yeah.
it's such a strange drop.
Well, a lot of-
also
a
after
lot-
such a disappointment at Austin as well, where I mean they had one driver disqualified and one who didn't finish the race.
I can't help feel like that might be 50-50. 50-50 with a car that doesn't suit circuits like that, and 50-50 that they've got at best B tier drivers.
I think a lot of the problems that they had, certainly in Austin and on Friday in Mexico, was it was down to the temperatures because the cooling on that car was starting to struggle.
Yeah.
I mean, the track temperature alone in Mexico hit 50 degrees on Friday. I don't know what that is for our American listeners, but bloody hot.
Yeah, it's wham.
About 100 and,
Well,
120 or something like that. And the car just couldn't handle it and lost a lot of pace. Of course, in Mexico, the air's a lot thinner as well because you're looking at almost 1.5 miles above sea level. And there's nowhere near enough air to make the turbo as functional as it would be at 99% of other circuits in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's just it's a shame that they're two of their three closest races on their home continent of North America. Happy now.
Yeah, Spain.
Just aren't suited to the car remotely. And is it something they can build on next year? I think they're going to have to because, I mean, their main thing is to increase the visibility of Formula One in the US because they want all the American fans to follow them.
Yeah.
They want to be the Dallas Cowboys of F1, America's team.
You say that, but I still think that if that was really their aim, they'd have an American driver in the team.
Have they got the money to pay for a top American driver? Because they'd have to get somebody from IndyCar.
Well, they're not
or
bothered.
NASCAR.
They're not bothered about hiring top line Formula One drivers. So surely any American driver would fit the bill.
I do get the feeling that Grosjean, especially, is going to be there next season on terms of default.
I can't help but feel Haas is because I really want Haas to do well. Don't get me wrong. I think I want Formula One to do well in America. I'm personally in favour of 2 US races, but I can't help but feel that they're kind of. You feel like it's almost a ship without a captain sometimes. Haas, you know, it's they came in under the Ferrari umbrella, and that umbrella seems to be slowly getting lifted away from them. You don't feel like even Williams. You feel like they've fucked it as far as building the car, but you know the roadmap of where Williams want to get to. I don't quite know what a Haas is for. They've got the pedigree in racing, but they don't seem to be. Like when BAR came in, for instance, BAR came in and said, "We want to win world championships."
Williams and McLaren still think they're going to win world championships.
I don't.
Renault think they're going to win world
Yeah.
championships.
Force
Haas,
India are honest, and they'll say, "Well, we're not going to win world championships because of X, X, and X, but we are building the best car we possibly can to be best of the rest."
Yeah, and until we
Yeah.
get an extra $200 million worth
Yeah,
of
yeah.
injection, we're not going to be able to challenge those guys in front.
But I don't understand what Haas is there for. It's a real. Am I making sense?
Yeah,
It's,
yeah, you are.
Yeah. It's strange.
But even Minardi, they had a mission which was to surprise you by finishing really high.
Yeah. But even just the fact that they've
Once
got
a season.
Once a season, yeah.
they've done well in a way because they've shown that Magnussen is a half decent Formula One driver. And once he's had 2 years in the team, he's settled into the team, that they can trust him to do a reasonably good job. Maybe can't trust him not to try and kill people now and again, but apart from that, he does all right. But I think, you said, Flood, it was such a fucking lack of inspiration when we found out that they'd hired Grosjean again. I don't get that by.
He's not. He's so inconsistent, Romain Grosjean, that he's likable. Don't get me wrong. He's not an unlikable driver, but he is so inconsistent that to me it doesn't make sense that if you want to push forward with your team, you would hire the driver who's been doing well for you, Kevin Magnussen. Fine, fair enough.
And get someone to push him to see if he can be better.
Exactly. It's just too safe, in my opinion. But I also think
it's not safe though, is it?
No, but I also think that they wanted Giovinazzi because they announced Grosjean and Magnussen like the day or 2 days after Sauber announced Giovinazzi.
Yeah.
So I think they wanted Giovinazzi, and when they realized they couldn't get him, just went, we'll just go with Roman again.
Mm. But I can't help think that, with Ocon floating around and stuff like that, I know Ocon's the Mercedes junior driver, but surely any team would be willing to take Ocon on loan for a year.
You'd think.
Yeah.
Is it that much? Is it that much of a bugbear with Mercedes that one of their drivers would be driving a Ferrari-powered car?
Well, it didn't seem to bother
It's
them when
the other way
Verline was in a
round.
Sauber.
Yeah.
It's the other way around, isn't it? Ferrari don't want a Mercedes young driver in.
But
Yeah, I mean,
it shouldn't really be up to them.
No.
But when I was going to say when Verline was in the Sauber, they didn't have the full technical partnership with
Super
Ferrari that
tie-in.
they've got now. Haas do have that, and would they want the young Mercedes driver passing on all the secrets of the current Ferrari engine back to Mercedes? Maybe in a year's time, after he's done,
I don't think there's anything drivers can pass back when it comes to engine development that the teams don't already know.
All you got to do is go to a photocopy shop in Woking, and you actually get all the details of the Ferrari engine.
Yeah, there's a USB pen lying around somewhere.
But yeah, I mean, Haas, I don't know, uninspiring and uninspired. The thing that I'm interested in with them at the moment is the whole Rich Energy thing. We do know where they've got some of their money from.
I have a theory.
Well, I did some research at the weekend as well, but
Go on.
we do know where Rich Energy have got some of their money from, which is I'll use the term publisher, David Sullivan, who on his Wikipedia page the first sentence is a former pornographer. So start with the big guns.
It's not an unfair statement.
No, I would say it was true. Tabloid newspaper founder, and I'm talking really low value supermarket tabloid.
What?
Sunday Sport.
Jesus.
Yeah. This is
They didn't even have Bat Boy.
This is someone who owned a newspaper that used to license stories from the Weekly World News back in the 80s when it kicked off.
They did have Bat
They
Boy.
did, so they did have Bat Boy. This is also the newspaper that brought you the double-decker bus that's parked on the moon.
And Hitler shaking hands with an alien.
Yeah, that was the one. But the alien might have been Elvis in disguise as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently he's one of the major investors in Rich Energy. And Rich Energy also have a Manx organisation as well. There is a company called Rich Energy Isle of Man, which is registered to a private address up in Ramsey, which is also the registered office address of an offshore wealth management company.
Oh, wow.
So they might be hiding their money over here. So Rich Energy...
Go up and see.
We could do.
So Haas
With
could
some
be a
spades.
local Formula One team.
So Haas now have Manx ties.
Right.
So Hasser.
Right.
Haas boy.
I have a theory why Haas have come in and undercut Williams to take the sponsor off them.
Now, this is something that needs explaining as well,
Yes.
because the deal had been agreed in principle with Williams for Rich Energy to be their title supplier. And then
A handshake isn't worth the paper it's written on.
exactly. And then Haas came in and said, you can have our title sponsorship for half that amount.
Yeah. So,
Half that amount.
but I think the reason they've done that is because they know that Williams is probably going to be who their main competitors are next year. So if you want them to have a sponsor or something like that, why not? It's dirty tactics in my eyes, but
It happens all the time.
take away what was going to be their title sponsor.
Now,
At
some
the
people,
last minute.
some people have sort of conspiracy that it might be us behind the Rich Energy Haas tie-in, especially with the Isle of Man links. Now, I'm not saying anything other than look at this picture that Ted Kravitz took with the Rich Energy man stood next to Claire Williams. Is that Paul?
I think it might be.
Paul, were you in Austin last weekend? Were you in two places at once?
I like the way you've crimped it to try and hide yourself.
And I'm the only one sat around this table that's actually drunk a can of Rich Energy as well.
Where did you get it?
The Hooded Ram beer tent during TT.
You should have took what was next to it. You know that gold box that was next to the kind of Rich Energy drink?
Yeah.
It was the Ark of the Covenant.
Oh, damn it. I went for the other side. I tried to reach over and grab the Holy Grail, but
You have chosen poorly.
But I haven't got in my way.
Yeah.
No, this is the cup of a carpenter. It's a can, see?
Man in a Rich Energy sort of chainmail. You have chosen wisely.
Only the energized man will pass. Only the energized.
But yeah, I can confirm that I am not the guy from Rich Energy because I could not. My beard game is not that strong.
No.
And I've tried it once, and that was enough for me. It tastes like an energy drink without any extra flavors.
Your beard.
Yes.
Or Rich Energy.
Or Rich Energy, yeah.
I had a shaving accident the other day, and I found out that both. Right, Force India next. DNF for Perez. Suspension problems, I think, wasn't it?
Looked like a rear suspension problem, although they were saying it was something to do with brake overheating. So I don't know what happened. It did look like it was a bit of the way the car snapped under braking, something stopped working on the rear of the car. And then he had to basically do nothing for a lap and pull in and retire nose first into the garage.
It was having quite a few decent battles.
Looked like he could have been best of the rest.
Yeah, I mean, I think he got up as high as 7th or 8th at one point. You could tell when every time he made a pass, and he always seems to make the passes in the baseball stadium section in Mexico, because that's what gets him the biggest cheer.
Yeah.
Because no matter what the TV coverage is showing, what part of the circuit, you can hear the cheers in the baseball stadium when Checo actually moves ahead of somebody from anywhere around that track.
Yeah.
Shame that he did so badly in his home race,
Yeah.
basically. And then Ocon in 11th lost half his front wing at the start.
Yeah.
Or said it was one of his worst races.
What was it?
Was it his fault he lost his front wing? I can't remember.
It's a little bit...
Well, did he hit Alonso?
He
No,
didn't hit
Alonso.
somebody else. The wing came off and bounced into Alonso.
Right.
Well,
that was
Hartley
it.
sort of went sideways into Ocon.
Yeah, Hartley's taking the blame for it because Hartley got a 5-second penalty and 2 points on his licence.
Yeah, Hartley left no room for anyone.
I don't think Hartley's going to have to worry about those points.
Probably not, no.
Well, I mean, it depends when Toro Rosso get desperate next year after they screw up and they have to bring him back again, like they seem to be doing with their drivers these days.
But it's kind of like, isn't it, when you've already handed your notice in at work and then they give you a written warning for being late.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, really?
But yeah, just bad in general for Force India. You'd expect more. Bizarrely, they've lost ground on McLaren for 7th place.
At this race,
Yeah.
yeah. I still expect Force India to outscore McLaren in the next 2 races.
Yeah, what is it, 14 points behind now?
Yeah. Yeah. It's possible McLaren could stay ahead, but yeah, we'll see.
Right, Williams next. Absolutely anonymous for the most part.
Not terrible in terms of what they were seeing earlier on in the weekend, because on Friday, even though the running was a little bit stilted, they were suffering from their aerodynamic stalling issue again, and their pace was well down because of that, and it looked like they were just going to be languishing a good 3-4 seconds a lap off the pace of everyone else for the whole weekend. But they did manage to do a little bit of tweaking overnight on Friday, and then even though there was a bit of rain on Saturday, they got to not fix the problem, but I think they understand it more and know how to manage it. I think is probably a fair comment.
I was about to say the only time they didn't look completely anonymous was in FP3 when it was slightly damp and Stroll didn't actually look all that bad in the wet. He's got good control of the car in the wet. That if he could be. If he could be in a faster car, and it'd be good to see what he's like in the dry, then when he's in Force India next year, I think we could be seeing him
Still unconfirmed.
I think it'd be interesting. He's got a good benchmark as well in Perez.
Yeah.
You know, I think we'll be able to see pretty fast whether there's any like real potential in Stroll. You know, first 4 or 5 races probably.
Yeah.
We'll know what's going on.
When, of course, it gets announced what team he's going to be in.
Yeah, there must be something still up in the air. You know, we've talked before we started recording about this, about why, you know, whether there's contracts going on with Williams about getting him out of his contract, or whether it's something they just don't want publicity. You know, it's before the end of the season. I still wonder whether there's something going on in Williams where there's a chance that they're going to have a half decent car next year, and it could be something as simple as like, is the Williams going to be better than the Force India next year?
So do you reckon maybe Stroll is the one who hasn't decided which team to go to?
Yeah, let's face it, right? If you're going to Force India, you kind of know the best you're going to get. The best you're going to get is what Force India is now. Depending on what other teams do, it might drop back a bit. It's not going forward. So if you've got Paddy Lowe to turn around and say, right, we've got it this year, lads. We know what we're doing. We know the way we're going. For Williams have already said that that the new car is going in a completely different direction to what this car is. Like Williams when they when we first got the Mercedes engines and they were up there and came second in the championship. Did they come second in the championship?
Yeah, in 2014.
Yeah, that was obviously very engine based, but that was an overnight transformation from where that team was.
Yeah, they'd been down in about ninth.
Was that the year before? Yeah, the year before was when Barrichello was still in the team.
Yeah, it was. Was it Barrichello and Bottas, and then it was Massa and Bottas?
Yeah.
In the first.
Was it not Barrichello and Maldonado?
No, Barrichello and Bottas for 2013, and then then Bottas and Massa for 2014.
Right, okay.
But it was Bottas' second season when it looked like he might be able to win races.
Yeah.
Around about the time when Williams became the rest home for not quite as good as they used to be Brazilians.
Bruno I think this has ended up being a theme of Bottas's career, isn't it? Where he probably should have won races. He should have won a race, at least a race in the Williams that year.
He should have won a race in a Mercedes, at least one this
year. Yeah. I think that's only because he started saying that himself, hasn't he? Now I can't help but think for him to start saying that he's disappointed he hasn't won a race this year seems to have happened since Kimi's won a race.
Yeah, he is on the back foot, isn't he, in that regard? You know, with Kimi winning a race. 113 races since Kimi last won. It's not been that long since Valtteri Bottas last won a race, but
no, but I mean, like he
should have won a race this year.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he should have won Russia.
He should have won
in Baku.
Should have possibly won in Bahrain if he was a bit braver.
What happened to him in Russia?
He moved aside to let Hamilton past.
Oh,
he got number 2.
He was leading the race.
I'm still not convinced that wouldn't have actually been a out and out race for that. I think he'd have had a bit of a deal on his hands, because don't forget, if they were allowed to race, I think it would have been a much more equal strategy as well. They wouldn't have played Hamilton like that, knowing that Bottas had to move out of the way. Do you know what I mean? His strategy would have been a strategy to race Bottas, where he didn't have to race Bottas. So I don't think he'd have had that race all his own way. Baku, he should have won Baku. You know, that wasn't his fault. That was a mechanical failure.
That wasn't bad racing. That was bad luck.
Yeah, I think Malaysia, it turns out that the fact that he didn't try and overtake Vettel kind of epitomises his whole season.
You mean
really.
Bahrain?
Sorry, Bahrain, yeah. It kind of epitomises his whole season, doesn't it?
I still think there wasn't a gap to go for there.
I think there was a gap to go for if he was braver. He'd have to get his elbows out, and they would have touched, you know.
Yeah.
But I think there was something to try for. I think that was the thing.
Yeah, it was early on
He
enough in
didn't
the season
try.
that if it had gone wrong, it wouldn't have mattered too much.
Yeah,
And as it turns out, he could have done it, and they could have touched, and it would have been Vettel that span, because Vettel spins every time somebody goes within about an inch of him.
didn't this week.
No, that is true.
They must have stuck some weight on the front end.
But anyway, we were
Anyway,
talking
moving on
about
from Williams.
Yeah.
Makes a change from.
Have we mentioned Sorokin? Even just mentioned him?
No.
He finished behind Stroll, but not like miles
only-
behind. So
Did we see him on screen at any time apart from getting lapped?
no, I don't think so. No, he was getting lapped a couple of times, wasn't he?
Was he in that big battle between about 17th and 12th?
Yeah, but it was kind of 3 seconds off the back of it. Everybody else was within about sort of half a second to a second and a half of each other, and he was just
Not quite there.
I think if we're going to be polite about it, hanging back just to capitalise on anybody else's mistakes.
Yeah, I do find it interesting that considering where Williams is, like what drivers they're looking at, he's not even really in the discussion, is he? When people are talking about it,
He is, because I mean things have changed now. We'll get to this later, but yeah, he's on this shortlist, which
Is ever changing.
appears to be evolving by the hour, which is probably going to be out of date by the time I have to record a jump cut tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll be announcing William drivers till the end of the year.
And there's the jump cut.
Yeah,
One team that isn't going to be announcing their new driver lineup till December because Franz Tost has said so is Toro Rosso, who are up next.
well, has he said that? Has
He
he?
has said that they're not going to make an announcement for the other seat until December.
Right.
So Brendan
They've
Hartley
got babies in the sun, haven't they? Trying to make them grow quicker.
Well, December is when the first Formula E race is. I wonder if that's related.
Maybe.
With Albon being in the Nissan Infiniti team.
Could you run a Formula E? Like, could you do a Formula E championship and Formula One?
I think there would be clashes.
There's only like 3 Formula E races, isn't there, over the course of the year?
And most of them are Saturdays.
When there's qualifying. So you
Yeah,
can,
but no one watches qualifying.
unless the FIA are planning on doing the shake-up and having Sunday qualifying from next season and getting rid of Fridays. There's been that many bloody plans, why not?
Yeah.
But
I'd love that. Sunday qualifying, I think, would be fucking ace.
it'd make the bacon sandwiches taste a lot better on a Sunday morning.
But
Be rubbish for Japan.
That would be Saturday night qualifying before you go to bed
Yeah.
for a couple of hours.
Or just get up to see who's on the grid at the start of the race.
We wouldn't do that. None of us would end up doing that.
Well,
Just getting up for the race and then looking to see who's on the grid.
oh no. Well, I tell you what though, I think lots of people would. I think lots of people would just fuck qualifying off.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah, but I'm talking about us four.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Watch
yeah.
the recap of qualifying like 5 minutes before the race start or something. Because they'd have to do that as well.
For Japan, I would.
yeah, you're only talking a couple of races.
Yeah.
Really.
But anyway, Toro Rosso's race performance. Hartley crossed the line 12th, but received a 5-second penalty, which dropped him down to 14. So it looks like the Williams at the end were close. But 2 penalty points in his licence, making a total of 6, and like we say,
Yeah, I don't think
Possibly
he's got to
done.
worry about it.
yeah. Gasly with a point to finish, and if it's down to Danny Ricciardo, we'll be driving a Red Bull for the last 2 races of the year.
I think that's going to be really interesting to see what happens from that.
Because Danny
I think
Ricciardo.
Ricardo's just in cruise home mode now, isn't he? He will just say,
I don't know. Going by that statement, it's more a fuck it, I'm going home kind of mode.
yeah.
What was it? I'm not a superstitious person, but that car's cursed. No point in me driving it. Might as well give it to Gasly for the last 2 races.
Yeah.
Basically, I want out.
No, his words were, "I'm done with it. He can have the car. I'm done with it."
But it was a clutch problem. But we'll get to that in a bit. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Gasly did okay, scored points.
Yeah.
Hartley wasn't that far behind him. Hartley in practice was at some points quite impressive actually. Was it FP2 where Hartley just decided to go faster than Lewis Hamilton?
Yeah, but it wasn't that like FPs 1 and 2 were crazy, weren't they?
A little bit.
No.
Yeah, well, the Mercedes in FP2 couldn't work with the hypersofts, and Hartley could. And
Yeah.
when he went faster than Hamilton, I think Hamilton had set the time on a slower set of tyres, and he was fueled heavier.
Yeah.
And also, Hartley got angry with his team for sending him out at the wrong time during qualifying. Let out a rant over the radio, and then put in his best lap of the weekend. So
Maybe they found the key. Piss him off.
Yeah.
He had a lot of things to say during the week as well, because after Austin, the team said that Gasly's car was broken. That's why Hartley did better. Hartley said he doesn't believe that, but he's not allowed to say why.
Oh right, wow.
I don't think all is as rosy as it seems in the Toro Rosso garage, which, well, to be honest, that's pretty normal.
Yeah, I don't think it seems rosy. To be fair, I mean, Hartley's already turned around and said that he thinks it's wrong the lack of support he's been given from the team over the course of the year. Now that it's obvious he's not driving that car next year.
The only way that I can see him in the car for 2019 is if nobody else wants it.
I think there'll be. It
And
won't be the
they
fact.
have to grudge on him.
Yeah, it won't be the fact that nobody wants it, because somebody will want it, but it's whether you can get somebody that's capable of just jumping in and doing it.
Which he's proved he has, but whoever's coming into that team, it's a bloody political nightmare.
if Red Bull decide Danny Ricciardo stepped out of line with what he said, and give Gasly the car for the last 2 races of the year, and Danny Rick's just on gardening leave for the last 2 races, Danny Kvyat will probably take the seat for the last 2 races of the season. Now, wouldn't that be a strange upturn for the books? Max Verstappen wins a race, Danny Kvyat's back in Formula One.
promoted.
Yeah. Well, Kvyat's back in that car next year, isn't it?
He's
confirmed?
That's confirmed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's probably what would happen.
If they can get him out of his Ferrari contract.
Well, I think it's going to be more whether Red Bull can let Ricciardo go because of commitments with advertisers and stuff like that. Because if you've got, let's say you're Aston Martin and you've got a load of stuff to do, and you think you're getting Daniel Ricciardo, and you're actually going to get Daniel Kvyat, I imagine you're going to be.
No, I think it'd be Gasly that.
Well, yeah, but even so,
Well, I think that Danny Rick will be in the Red Bull
Yeah,
for
I
the
think
rest
he
of the
will be
season.
too.
But it's an interesting thought experiment to say,
Yeah.
what if they did take him at his word and say, right, you want us to give the car to Gasly? Fine.
Yeah.
What if he can't do the last couple of races of the season because he needs a back operation? Sorry,
Well,
back operation.
yeah, maybe. But
He knows a specialist in Finland.
Yes.
like I said, I think it would be more them saying that you've got to do this because you've got X, X, and X to do.
Yeah.
Because like I say,
Contractually obliged.
if you're Aston Martin, for instance, and you've got stuff to do, you're going to be wondering where your extra pounds went if all of a sudden you've got Gasly instead of Daniel Ricciardo, who everybody loves.
Well, they'll have Gasly next year anyway, so.
No, but this is what you pay
But
for.
how much advertising have Red Bull had to drop already this year with Danny Rick making his announcement? Because I mentioned this last week. That World Tour series of videos that was just starting.
Yeah.
They did one. He said I'm off to Renault. No more ever came out.
It'd be like buying a Lion Bar and getting a Atomics tea cake inside it. Both nice, but not what you ordered.
Yeah, okay, that's a strange analogy, but I'll go with it.
So from this, we can take it as read that Pierre Gasly is mostly marshmallow.
A big softie.
Maybe.
Did you see, going sort of slight cross-reference with Lee's old podcast here? Mike Mizanin was at the Mexican
I did.
Grand Prix.
Yes.
Talking to Pierre Gasly.
Yeah, it was weird.
It was a bit.
It was weird.
I saw somebody posted the video and said it was possibly the cringiest moment of the weekend.
It was typical wrestler talking to non-wrestler stuff. Although there was one interview I saw which was fucking hilarious because he did a hot lap thing and then he took the car around, and they said, "How did it go?" He said, "It was great." He said, "I'm brilliant." He said, he said that they turned around and told me I hit an apex. I asked if it was all right.
That sounds quite funny.
Sauber up next. Great weekend for him. 7th and 9th.
Yeah, double points finish for Sauber. And the resurgence of Marcus Ericsson continues despite the fact he hasn't got a race seat for next year.
So I actually have some questions here. Has Ericsson got a lot better this year? Has Ericsson always been good and we've underrated Verline and Nasser? Is Charles Leclerc not actually all that? Ericsson's still shit and the car is just shit hot? What's going on?
I think
All of the above.
yeah,
With probably a few extra variables thrown in as well for good
Yeah.
measure.
it was proven in his first season at Caterham that Marcus Ericsson enjoys the second half of the season a lot better than he enjoys the first half of the season.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah, 'cause he went from finishing 23rd to finishing 18th.
yeah, basically, yeah, and putting some super strong performances when he was at Caterham. And he's I still like to point out he is the only driver who went to Caterham, regardless of where he went to Caterham from, and then went on
came
to
back.
another Formula One team.
Yeah.
Everybody who went through Caterham's doors went out of Formula One, except Marcus Ericsson,
And a temporary Heikki Kovalainen.
who well, very
Who
temporarily.
filled in for Kimi when he had a back injury.
Yeah, very, very temporarily. But yeah, Marcus Ericsson, was he 5 years at Sauber now? Something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 years. And he gets better as the year goes on, and then we think, oh, Ericsson's doing all right. And then the year starts again, and he's fucking awful.
And he gets to Australia and he's backwards on a straight.
Yeah, basically.
I suppose
Except
it is
his
time.
first season in Sauber. That first race at Australia, him and Nasser put the cars in.
Oh, yeah.
Was it-
Yeah, 7th and
Seventh,
5th or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is the thing. It's the Sauber's the first time he's ever had a consistently good car through the year. No, that Sauber's been all
Yeah.
right. That,
Yeah.
And the development has managed to keep up with every other car
and
around
it's kept it being all right. So, in a way, it's a shame. I think were we talking about this before we started recording?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought he'd be, if Williams was stuck for a driver, Ericsson might not be the worst move because he seems to be doing an all right job. He's better than Sorokin.
All of this from
And
he's barely a Formula One driver, which we were saying, like, what, a year ago?
But do you know? I think he is barely a Formula One driver, if I'm honest.
Given a car, though, he's proven that he could drive it.
Yeah, I mean, because he has been outclassed by Charles Leclerc pretty much all
Yeah.
the time. So yeah, I don't. It's definitely his time to be out of Formula One, right? You know, it's a good move for them to put somebody else, especially if they're going to use Sauber as like a feeder team for Ferrari.
Ericsson still within the Sauber family. He's just moving to reserve driver role.
And of course, on Tuesday, it came out that he's going to be driving an IndyCar as well. Marcus Ericsson is actually off to the Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports team, partnering James Hinchcliffe in IndyCar next season. He'll be driving the number 7 car because the team have pledged that they'll be keeping the number 6 car for Robert Wickens when he comes back from his injury that he suffered at the Pocono race this season. But he is also keeping on his Sauber reserve driver role too. So I guess that kind of makes everything that we've just talked about moot. Don't you love Tuesdays? Right, back to where we were.
Yeah, but I do think it's a good move to get shot of him. But on the side of that, I think there's a good chance that Williams might end up with a worse driver in their car than Ericsson,
Like Sirotkin
like Sirotkin
or Stroll.
or a broken Kubica.
I don't know about Kubica.
I'd love to see him in because I think he's worked so hard to get himself to the point of getting into Formula One. It would be horrible to see it all crumble just when it was really close. But fucking hell, like, do we really want to see somebody in Formula One, and then it turns out that even with all that work they're putting in, all the effort they're putting in, that they can't actually physically do a full season?
Yeah.
I would rather see them in the car and find out that they couldn't than have it assumed that it's not possible.
But at the moment, it's actually looking like Kubica could be on his way to Ferrari to take over Kvyat's job as simulator driver.
So could be find himself in a Sauber at some point.
Nah, if he goes to do that, he's found himself as a Ferrari man in a suit.
Yeah.
Very, very fast.
Much like Danny Kvyat this last year and a bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, look at Sauber's driver lineup this year: Leclerc and Ericsson. Okay, we know that Charles Leclerc is very good. We know he's off to Ferrari. Marcus Ericsson has been questionable over the last few years,
Yeah.
but does improve in the second half of the season. Given a Sauber car that's been all right from the word go,
Yeah.
for a change, he's proven that he can score points occasionally when the car lets him.
He can get the car into Q3 sometimes.
But if you're Sauber, are you going to say no to Kimi Raikkonen and Antonio Giovinazzi as your lineup?
Not a chance.
Absolutely, there you go. Which is precisely the correct reason.
Well, I mean, by the terms of the contract, they couldn't say no to Antonio Giovinazzi because Ferrari have put him there because
Yeah.
they have the rights to one of the seats.
Yeah.
The question is, do you say no to Kimi Raikkonen who wants to come in and drive for you? No, you bloody don't.
No, he wants to drive for Sauber before, go back to where it started before he retires.
Yeah.
So it was strange that Raikkonen got a 2-year deal out of that as well. But that for me, from a Sauber perspective, is exactly the right thing to do.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
unfortunately, the victim has to be Ericsson.
It's worth having Kimi Raikkonen in just for what will happen to their merch sales.
Yeah.
Like Kimi Raikkonen shifts more hats and T-shirts than any other driver on the grid.
I want a Sauber coat. I couldn't find one. They
You know
don't
what? Kim,
sell them.
Kimi said one of his reasons for joining is the factory's only 20 minutes drive from his house.
See, that's
That's a very Kimi thing to do.
Yeah, it's not a long commute.
Yeah, he lives 20 minutes away from Hinville, so he's got a longer journey to Maranello. So you get old, you want to stop commuting as much. I can see why he
Well,
does
the thing
it.
is, by the
Gets
time
achy in the car.
Yeah.
Kovalainen, Achy Kovalainen.
This is why I started working from home when I got into my early 40s.
That's it. Raikkonen. By the time Raikkonen's 2-year contract is up, and who knows if he performs brilliantly and manages to put that Sauber in places it really shouldn't go, he may even be offered an extension. He's going to be 41 when his 2-year extension runs out. And we all thought Michael Schumacher was way too old when he was his second retirement. It was 41 or 42. And his second retirement, we were like, yeah, Schumacher's that's no, he's had it. Raikkonen's still performing quite well.
He is, yeah. Well, I think there's definitely a thing in sport now, isn't there, where because we know so much more about fitness and nutrition, that sportsmen seem to be able to stay at a level a lot longer.
And I think Schumacher's big problem was his first retirement. Mm-hmm. If he hadn't had that, then I think he would have performed a lot stronger.
But don't forget,
Just keep going. Yeah.
But Kimi had years out, 2 or 3 years out, going rallying.
Yeah, but he was still racing when.
Yeah,
I think
if
kind of stopped racing, didn't he?
I think Schumacher would have needed the time out. So if he had a similar looking career to Kimi, where he took a year off here and a year off there, I think he would have been stronger at the end of his career
Yeah, than he was.
Yeah.
But let's not forget who Michael Schumacher's replacement was. Lewis Hamilton.
It kind of worked. It kind of worked out for the team in the end. Next up, we have Renault Hulk in 6th.
Brilliant result for Nico Hulkenberg.
Yeah.
a brilliant result. Like best of the rest. Bear in mind he was a lap down on the car ahead of him.
And they started.
Yeah,
on
but he was about 30 seconds ahead of the car behind him.
Yeah,
very good.
And he started on completely the wrong tires as well.
Yep.
On those used Ultrasofts, wasn't it?
No,
Ultrasofts?
Hypersofts. He was one of the few to start. Renault and Sauber started on the Hypersofts, and it seemed like a slightly odd thing to do, but managed to make them last until like lap 13, something like that.
Where realistically, it looked like all you need to do was put them out in the sun. You could watch them degrade.
Yeah, yeah.
Although, I mean, they were saying before the race, the pit window for anyone on used hypers, you were looking at as early as lap 5.
Yeah.
And they had to be on the hypers because that was their qualifying time.
Yeah.
And if they used ultras for qualifying, they wouldn't have got
They
into
wouldn't have got
Q1.
through.
No, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a really good performance from Nico Hülkenberg, and again affirming what I think we all believe is that if Renault can put a car together that's competitive, Hülkenberg and Ricciardo might be a really strong lineup next
Do you know
year
what? I think it's going to be really interesting
because they'll
that
push each
too.
other.
Yeah, but I think we're going to see how good Hülkenberg is.
Yeah.
You know, we know how good Ricciardo is, and Hülkenberg has always been a bit of a question mark around him. If Hülkenberg starts fucking beating Ricciardo,
Yeah,
he all of a sudden he might be back in line for
his stock goes up.
he might be back in line for that Ferrari drive or something if if
Leclerc doesn't work out, or if Vettel
or
spits
if
the dummy.
Vettel spits the dummy,
Yeah.
or Mercedes decide that they don't want to put Ocon or George Russell in the main car after they sack Bottas.
Well, I mean, according to Mercedes, George Russell's going to be at Williams for a number of years.
Yeah, well, no, the
One
deal,
is a number.
yeah, the deal is a number of years, but considering his deal is with Mercedes, you know,
No, I took it that he's in Williams for a
oh,
while.
it's a multi-year deal with Williams, but that means there's options and clauses, and I'm sure just like
Like there was with Bottas.
Bottas had a multi-year deal with Williams as well. He's not in a Williams anymore.
True. might be,
I'm
might
pre-
be again soon.
Pretty sure almost every driver in a team that isn't Mercedes, Ferrari, or Red Bull has a clause that says if Mercedes, Ferrari, or Red Bull come knocking,
Yeah.
you can say yes.
I think it's Ocon I feel sorry for here because I just don't believe that this whole sabbatical year, if he has to take it, is going to work out for him. I don't think he's not good enough to take a year off.
I think he will end up being a Mercedes reserve driver.
Yeah, but what I don't think he's.
He might get a couple of FP1s with Mercedes, but
I think he is good enough because, okay, you say he's not battered Perez, but he's not been battered by him either.
Oh no, but
Perez got podiums when Hülkenberg didn't.
but he's not going to get better for that year.
No,
Because he's not racing, and that's what for him to get himself in the position where he can be good enough to drive for Mercedes. I think he needs to be continually in Formula One.
But look at drivers who have taken a year out in Formula One.
Grosjean,
Alonso, Raikkonen took years out early on in their
early
career.
on in the career, yeah. But I think it was obvious.
Felipe Massa took a year out early on in his career, didn't he? I think was he.
But
Sauber and then took a
didn't
year out.
Alonso only do one race? Didn't Alonso do one race for?
No, he was a year at Minardi and then
Was
he
he a
was
full
a year
year
out.
at
He was a-
Minardi?
yeah, full season at Minardi, and then he took a
They
year
took
out
out to Renault.
to be the Renault test driver. But on the other side, look at Pedro de la Rosa. He was on his way up and then became a test driver.
Oh, I'll also say
Yeah.
I don't care how much pixie dust you put on him.
I'm just
Ocon
trying to
is
use-
never going to be Fernando Alonso.
No, but we're just trying to put, both a spin on both. It can be a positive as well as a negative thing to have a year out. It's not always a negative
It
thing.
can be a positive. I get
It
that.
worked pretty well for Alain Prost taking 92 out.
Different time though. No, different time. Of different
He got
ages.
sacked, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he had a
Prost-
year out, came back to... He had a year out, came
'Cause he
back to
didn't
Williams.
have a seat.
Yeah. Came back to Williams and then won.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then retired because he heard that Williams had signed Ayrton Senna.
and of course you never know what's going to happen with contracts and things. So, being a free agent at the start of 2020 might work out to be a good thing,
I think the issue is,
and he might still be in a Force India.
Oh, he might.
He might still be
in the
there,
Force.
yeah.
He might be in a Williams as well. But I just don't. I don't see the Force India because I think it's clear Stroll's going there. But
Probably, unless what we were talking about
Yeah.
earlier is a fact
there's
rather
And
than
that
just
jump
conjecture.
cut that we didn't have.
Yeah.
yeah, I just think for him, he needs to be in Formula One. It would be like because he is on like Perez level, and I think if you took Perez out of Formula One, I don't think he'd have come back. We've seen better drivers than Ocon leave Formula One too soon. John-Eric Verne is a good example of that. He's a better driver than Ocon.
Oh, I don't know
Magnussen
about
had
that.
a year out and he's come back and done all right with it.
Massa.
Magnussen.
Magnussen. Yeah, but he's not. He's never going to find himself in a Mercedes. This is the thing. Ocon's job in Formula One is to get as a Mercedes driver to get himself in a top team, and that's I don't believe that taking a year out is going to get him there. He's going to be thrown into the wilderness.
Put it this way: if Bottas quit tomorrow, they put Ocon in that car. They won't put anyone else in.
Oh, I think you're right. If he quit tomorrow, they put him in. Yeah, but if this was next year and they're replacing Bottas, I don't believe they'll put a guy in a car which hasn't been in a Formula One car for a year.
That's basically what Toto Wolff's saying that they're going to do, though. And
Yeah, I think he's talking
yeah.
absolute bullshit. The air must be thin around where his head is because he's so tall.
Well, he was in Mexico,
Yeah.
so. But anyway, we were talking about Renault, and
were
we
talking
spoke
about
about
Renault.
Hulkenberg. But what about Sainz?
DNF. I didn't actually see why he retired. I just
I
heard
think
the
the
radio.
car shut down.
Radio message was just retire.
Yeah.
Yeah, the car shut down in the baseball stadium. That's why we had the virtual safety car. Complete shutdown. There's nothing you can do. Pull over, get off the circuit.
Because that's about it. It does seem to happen a lot with Renault powered cars.
Well, it happens a lot with one of the Renaults. Last year it was Palmer. Yeah, and it happens a lot with one of the Red Bulls. Last year it was Verstappen. This year it's Ricciardo.
At the start of this year, it was Verstappen.
Yeah, and so Ricciardo going to Renault, this is doubling up your problems a little bit, maybe, possibly.
He needs to really hope that the talks that Renault have got an entirely new engine.
It's being quietly bigged up, isn't it? The Renault package for next year.
That's why I think there's a good chance it might be all right because they're not fucking.
They're not like, look at us, we're
Yeah,
going to
we're
be
gonna
up
be
there
world
with
champions,
Mercedes. No.
Don't look for us at the start of the season, but
No, they're not saying that. They're saying that,
We'll be doing a bit different
we've-
with the engine.
we're doing something different, which will give us a big advantage over what we're doing this year.
That's why I'm sticking a 10 on Lando Norris to win the championship.
That would be pretty incredible.
can't you just buy a couple of weeks worth of podcast biscuits? Because then you'd get something out of your tenner.
Hey, everyone thought my dad was stupid when he put 20 quid on Jenson Button to win the championship in 2009.
At what odds?
I think it was like fucking 40 to 1.
How many years before that had he put 20 quid on Jensen Button to win the championship?
Never betted on him before at all.
Right. Mercedes next. Not used to seeing them this far down.
No, the third best team, I think is fair to say,
Yeah.
which is where I put them in the running order.
They were described as being a little bit F3 in practice.
Yeah, that's fair.
Not Alonso saying it.
Bottas was a lap down on the top 5, but he made that extra pit stop under the virtual safety car. Or just after, was it just after the virtual safety car?
Just after it was ending, it was
'Cause he had
timed
he
really
had
badly.
He had a free stop over Hulkenberg, and his tyres were shot.
Oh, no, it was under the virtual safety car because I thought they
It
were
was just as
bringing.
it was ending, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought they were going to bring Lewis in just see if they could do something with new tyres. Then realised
Yeah.
he probably didn't have any.
No.
No, I think they were both out of new tyres because Bottas's last set were
Used
used
Hypers.
hypers.
Yeah.
And they looked pretty used when they
Yeah.
went on. Hamilton doing just enough. Bottas, I would say not doing enough
I think you're probably right.
because he just wasn't there at all. Didn't get anything out of the car and wasn't challenging for anything.
Well, let's face it. Like, is the in the race like on? So was he like before he pitted? He was still sort of 20 odd seconds behind Hamilton, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
The gap opened up quite quickly and it
There's
stayed
been,
quite big.
there's been a few of those this year with Hamilton and Bottas where there's been a massive disparity between the two of them, and it's
A
not
gulf in class, I think you could say.
it's not good enough, is it?
It's not Rosberg, is it?
Like, let's face it, the Van Dorn isn't that far off Alonso,
No,
and people are ready to lynch Van Dorn sometimes.
including us.
Oh, yeah,
On-
absolutely.
on occasion.
Love a good hanging.
I like Stoffel Van Dorn. I do like Valtteri Bottas, but the point of the season at the moment, well, up to this point, the latter part of the season has been to try and get Lewis Hamilton as driver champion, because let's be honest, that is the most important championship.
Yeah, of course it is.
Like, if you don't win the driver championship, but you win the team championship, the constructors, you don't blow your trumpets over that.
Nobody
do you know what I mean?
remembers constructors championship
No.
wins.
Although I remember Mercedes winning it last year a long time before they won the Drivers' Championship.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, but what I was going to say was, you need now Bottas to switch focus. Well, the team to switch focus as well, from being let's protect Lewis Hamilton to let's score as many points as we possibly can. Now, I think it's possible that, you know, with was it a 55-point deficit that Ferrari have over Mercedes at the moment.
That Mercedes have over Ferrari.
Sorry,
Mercedes are leading by 55 points.
Yeah, but it's a deficit to,
Yeah.
to Ferrari of
Yeah.
55 points. And I don't see, barring a disaster, Ferrari picking up 55 points over the last two races over Mercedes. Unless Valtteri Bottas is Valtteri Bottas and isn't able to pick up as many points as he needs to.
I think this could be another big thump to him because he should technically be allowed to race Lewis because the championship's done and dusted now, yeah?
Yeah.
But I still think Mercedes are going to have to favour Lewis Hamilton because he's the one that you can bank on to bring back that
Maximum
bag
points.
of points.
Do they favour Lewis Hamilton to bring back the bag of points, or do they favour Valtteri Bottas to try and get him ahead of Raikkonen in the Drivers' Championship?
No, I think they care more about the Constructors' Championship than they do where Bottas ends up. If
Yeah.
it was second,
Yeah.
if he could get ahead of Vettel and they could whitewash the season,
And do a 1-2.
I'd agree with you.
but they can't.
It makes no difference having a Ferrari in between them.
The
No.
the other factor is that they need Bottas to come into next season with his head high.
Yeah, but gifting him a win by having Hamilton
Yeah, it's
move over
not.
or something is
No.
not the correct thing to do.
I can't see them doing that, but I'm convinced that
Can't see Hamilton doing it.
I'm convinced that over the last few weekends, the whole weekend has been set up around getting Hamilton a race win
Yeah.
and forget what happens to Valtteri.
Mm-hmm.
I think there might be a change in focus over the next couple of weekends. So
I don't
it's
think it'll be for Valtteri Bottas.
I don't think it'll matter.
I think if anything, they'll just put equal focus on the two drivers and they'll go for a team result. It's not going to be favouring one driver over the other or gifting Bottas a win to falsely boost his sense of achievement.
Yeah.
I think it'll be they will just set things up so that, or certainly in Brazil, they will set things up so that they will get the points they need to clinch the Constructors' Championship there.
Yeah. The other thing is the fact you've got to look at Hamilton's really good at Brazil and Abu Dhabi. No, he's historically good at those two races.
Yeah.
So you've like that's what I mean that you can. There's no reason why Lewis Hamilton can't win the last two races of the year. I don't believe Bottas is going to win either of them.
Unless Lewis just completely switches off, like he has been accused.
He's a
been
different
accused
Lewis,
of doing
though.
in previous
Yeah.
years. This year, we've seen a different Lewis Hamilton, is what I was about to say.
Yeah, because realistically, that's only ever happened once, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, Dan thinks that it's going to be, this is the year that he breaks it.
yeah, just looking at not this weekend just gone, but the weekend before. How relaxed he was in Austin.
Yeah.
I think I don't think he needs to switch off after winning the championship.
No, I think you're right. I think there's no. I think the reason he switched off after winning the championship when it was him and Rosberg was just the amount of pressure that was
Yeah.
on in that team. You know, it's the animosity and the spite between the two of
Yeah,
them.
the fact that the two sides of the garage were almost rivals, but
Yeah.
they were supposed to be a team sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that's what did it.
Well, the team couldn't really support either of them to win the championship
No.
over the other one, whereas with Bottas in a much clearer number 2 role, not as close to winning the championship, the team can get behind Lewis.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think he's going to win one of the 2 races, if not both.
I was thinking about the number 2 thing as well, and I think I've worked out why it's worse for Bottas and why he's performing worse than, say, a Massa or a Barrichello did under almost similar circumstances. But the reason it's different is because the circumstances aren't similar. Is they were defined as number 2 drivers. Do you know what I mean? They were put on the track, and they knew when they were going there that they were put on the track to come second. At best come second. At worst, help the number 1 win the race or get as high up as possible. Bottas, apart from that one move over, which was a totally sensible thing to do for the championship. Otherwise, the championship would still be going on into the next race if they hadn't done that. Bottas has been beaten because he's not good enough to match Lewis Hamilton. That's why this is, I think, career destroying for him at the moment. Like, I really don't know if a driver can come back from a year like this.
Bottas is not a defined number 2, whereas, as you're saying, Barrichello and Massa
Like you
were
said, it's a golfing
defined
class.
number 2s. Yeah, it's a golfing class, but even that makes Lewis Hamilton very comfortable having that sort of backup Bottas, if you will. When it was Rosberg, the pressure was, they weren't favouring one or the other.
Yeah.
It was made
Especially
the best man
at the beginning
win.
of the year. I don't believe there was any team orders at the beginning of the year.
And I think if Bottas had gone into the team thinking that he was going to be massed or Barrichello'd, then he might be a bit more comfortable with things as they are at the moment. But I think he thought he was going there, much like Rosberg. I think I can beat Lewis,
Yeah.
and it hasn't proven to be the case, which is why his head has dropped so much.
Well, let's face it. He's had Vettel's year with Ricciardo, but without the confidence of 4 world championships behind him.
Yeah.
So it's going to be so
He's
interesting.
had 2 of Vettel's years with Ricciardo.
Yeah, he needs pole and win in Australia, I think, or because even if he wins now, all people are going to say is, "Oh well, Lewis has switched off."
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what happens. It's if Lewis hadn't won the championship, he'd have beaten him for the last 2 races. He needs pole and a win in Australia to shake all the
unless we
baggage
see an
off.
amazing dice between the 2 Mercedes drivers now free to race it.
Oh, yeah.
Either of the last 2 races, and Bottas comes out on top.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only way.
No,
he can
but
redeem himself.
sorry, but even that, I think people would turn around and say, yeah, but if Lewis was fighting for a championship,
Yeah,
it would have been a different outcome.
Yeah, I think number 2 driver in a top team is just a completely unenviable position because you are going to get broken in whatever circumstance.
Yeah, it's one of those strange things, isn't it? I always felt that both Barrichello, oddly, because they were sort of similar ages, which is weird, but both Barrichello and Massa were kind of like just hanging around in Ferrari, hoping that Michael Schumacher would retire.
Yeah,
That always seemed to be like, especially Massa. Someday, everything the light touches will be my kingdom.
It's Eddie Irvine that I feel sorry about because he's probably in a similar position to what Bottas has been in for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Where he thought he was in with a chance, even though there was no way on this earth that he was.
Well, look, he won a race, was sabotaged by his own team, so he didn't win a championship.
Yeah.
And he left Ferrari to go to fucking Jaguar. That's what it did to him.
Yeah.
That speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He is Irish. I mean, maybe he just really likes green, but
He did change his helmet colour as well, didn't he, when he went to...
yeah, it had
Jaguar.
leopard print on the top of it, didn't it?
Yeah, I think I had a shamrock before.
Yeah.
It was kind of an orangey red, wasn't it, with green bands on
Yeah.
it? And then he went to Jaguar and his helmet was green.
Yeah, he had leopard print before it was synonymous with council estate chic.
Looks like somebody skinned a cast member from Hollyoaks.
It's worse than double denim, isn't it? A lot worse than double denim.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt.
double
yeah,
leopard
yeah.
print.
Oh, single leopard print. Single leopard print is worse.
I thought double denim was back in now, ironically.
I don't think so.
Double denim is fine if it's black denim,
Yeah.
like
even
me.
I-
I'm
I-
not black denim.
even
but
the right person can do blue, but that's very, very dependent on the people.
grey denim, I think you get away with as well, but
Mm.
not blue. You can't do double denim on blue. It's a bad idea.
I think double denim is probably best left to country singers.
Yeah, probably.
Mm.
Garth Brooks.
Just like the pits of hell.
You're
Moving
listening
on.
to Three Legs, Four Wheels fashion advice.
I'm looking around this table. It's not the best advice to be listening to.
I really don't think it is. Right, moving on. Should we do the... Actually, there's probably no point doing the top two teams together because I think we've got things to say about Ferrari and Red Bull separately. Ferrari, second best with Vettel in second and Kimi in third.
Yeah.
Seb did everything he could, but
Wasn't enough.
wasn't enough.
Kimi was much like a little bit Bottas in this race in that he was quite far behind.
I think it was a good race for Kimi considering they left him out too long on tyres again.
They did, and they chose a completely different strategy for him. But
I mean, we said at the time on
Give him-
Sunday when he was staying out, it's like, they're sacrificing him again as a hold up.
yeah, but given what he did in Austin, it's really a bit of a slap from Ferrari to Kimi to do that to him,
Yeah. Oh, I got my book, by the way.
because it was never going to be.
Oh, excellent. Oh, we'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah, I think so. You run your finger over the signature. It appears to be embossed. So
Oh,
I
very
take
nice.
it as a signature.
Actual Kimi Raikkonen signature.
Yeah.
You'll have to give us a haiku later.
Yes.
I
It's
think
fine, actually.
I think in Austin, Kimi winning the race helped Sebastian's championship because it kept Lewis off the top spot. It stopped him from closing or from extending the lead. In Mexico, they needed Kimi to be the mobile chicane.
Yeah.
Yeah, to stop people from getting through from behind. But I mean,
Props to Kimi as well for the racing with Lewis. It was like incredibly fair, good
Yeah.
racing considering the position Kimi's in and Lewis is in and Vettel's in.
it's been easy for them to have a
Yeah.
accident.
But I think like his sort of sportsmanship there, it can only be matched by Lewis's clear like respect for him that wasn't going to be a thing that would happen,
No, it was good, clean, fair racing.
because that was a great overtake.
and it's something we want to see a lot more of in 2019 as well.
Mm.
Hopefully, those new aero regs will make it easier for that kind of racing to happen through S-bends, etc.
I think it tends to be something as well that it only really happens between world champions, doesn't it? There's a
That kind of mutual respect.
yeah.
Yeah, Raikkonen and Hamilton there, so having a bit
Yeah.
of they were close, but they never touched.
No.
Just to prove that it can happen occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
And that leaves Red Bull. Danny Rick. Apparently, it was the clutch.
Clutch bearing.
We're not going to talk about the Ferrari driver that lost the world championship.
Well, there's not a great deal more to say. Vettel came second, didn't win the world championship.
But what do you think this has done to Vettel? Because I was amazed by.
He did look broken in the press conference.
Yeah,
actually.
I was amazed by how he came across at the end.
Although-
Well, we were saying before we started recording, he won't have spent any time thinking about, okay, if I don't win this, it's okay, I can cope with that. He'll have spent the whole time thinking, how do I win this? What do I need to do to win? And he hasn't won. So now is when he can let all of the defeat
Do you
in.
know what? I think it's more than that. I think it's more than being defeated, which is the issue.
He's been defeated in a better car.
Yeah, he's been defeated in a better car, and they've taken his wingman off him and brought in the new young rookie next year.
One thing that Vettel did do after the race actually was he went into the
Saw that.
Mercedes war room
Yeah,
at the track and shook hands with everyone.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah,
incredibly classy.
Somebody sent us that on a tweet earlier.
Yeah.
I tweeted it out. Have a look on it on our
That
account.
must have been
@3 Legs
hard
for
for him
Wheels.
to do.
Yeah, you wouldn't have got that from Michael Schumacher.
No, you wouldn't.
No.
No. I've got to say something about Vettel. All right, he might have won those 4 world championships in a row, but I mean, he is a classy driver when it comes to
He seems like an unbelievably nice person.
yeah,
as
when it
well.
comes to
Yeah.
cracking jokes and it comes to just being a bit more human. Sebastian Vettel, the Anglophile, absolutely has it dialed down. He's got that. He's got that human touch, which a lot of, I don't mean this in a rude way, but it's just the way it's going to come out. A lot of German drivers in Formula One often lack.
I mean, a lot of people used to call Schumacher Robo Racer.
Yeah, like Pete Sampras was Robo Tennis Man as well.
Yeah.
That's
weird.
really weird. I got him a cheating cunt.
I remember that time Murray Walker nearly did, but backed out just after the word cheating. Yeah, I mean, he'll bounce back.
Of course he will. Remember
Let's face it, he's had enough seasons to bounce back of not winning titles.
when he was in his early Ferrari days and Mercedes were fighting amongst themselves, Rosberg, Hamilton, and he was the thumbs up. I'm happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the Seb that he knew he probably wasn't going to be in with the championship fight, but he was biding his time for when the opportunity came his way. 2018 is the opportunity that came his way. For large periods of 2018, that Ferrari was the better car. But when Ferrari was the better car, they didn't maximize. The team didn't maximize their opportunities. And all right, okay, Vettel made mistakes as well.
I think it's more Vettel than Ferrari this year.
And Hamilton, Ferrari are made some pretty poor errors as well.
I
But
still can't understand how he made that massive screw up in Germany.
yeah, that for me was a turning point of the season, where Hamilton was starting 14th or something, and Vettel was on pole. It was just like, well, this is clearly going to be a great race for Ferrari.
Hamilton won that race,
And
didn't he?
Hamilton
Yeah.
won it, and Vettel scored no points.
And I think Vettel actually had the lowest speed crash of the season when he finally hit the barrier.
It's crazy, isn't it? But that's just that's the way things work out sometimes. Lewis Hamilton has that mental ability to win races in a car that's maybe not the best, but not far off. Obviously, he did it in McLaren in 2009. He did it
2008.
2009 he won races.
Won
no,
races,
sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, he won races in a car in a McLaren, which was awful. The 2009 McLaren was one of the worst McLarens until they switched to Honda, and he managed to win races in it. But I don't think Vettel's able to do it the other way round. He has to wait for somebody to make a mistake when he's in an inferior car.
I think there's two things that maybe we've learnt this year. I think the Red Bull, through its dominant period, was even better than we thought it was. It's even more unbeatable than it appeared to be. And when we talk now with Lewis having 5 world championships, there's been lots of conversation with is he? Do you now consider him up there with a Schumacher or like Fangio or a Senna? Or is he in that elite tier of driver? I don't. It's probably more of a conversation to be had once he's retired and he's won all he's going to win. But I don't. Although a very good driver and obviously like a world champion, I don't think Vettel's going to be in that conversation. When Vettel retires, he's going to retire an ex-world champion. When Lewis Hamilton retires, he's going to be retired, and people are going to say, "Is he the greatest of all time?"
I think Vettel still has the chance to turn that around.
I don't think he's got the ability. I don't unless he lands himself in a situation in 2020, because this is the big thing I'm thinking for Lewis. I think Lewis will be in a Ferrari in 2021 because Mercedes' strong point has been its engine, and its weaker point has been aero this year. So if it comes to a development race to develop around new aero regs, I can see it being Mercedes that lose out to other teams, being Ferrari and Red Bull.
Possibly, but I think obviously Mercedes before this year had an engine that was head and shoulders above the rest.
Yeah.
This year, at times, I think Ferrari.
I think
have been-
Ferrari have got the best engine now.
Yeah.
They've overtaken them, definitely. But it does seem to be that the circuits which has relied more on chassis have been the ones where Ferrari have really taken it to Mercedes. So, it's obviously not a bad car. It's obviously a good car. But I wonder if it's as good a chassis as a Red Bull or a Ferrari. Because I think looking at what Red Bull did with a Renault in the back of it at Mexico, we can probably say that Red Bull are still producing the best car on the grid to go from where they are to winning a race.
And possibly the best race team on the grid as well,
Yes,
because that
yeah.
car should not win races.
No,
Yeah. Despite the fact that, as we've already alluded to, the altitude in Mexico, was it 22% it reduced the efficiency of the engines by? Something ridiculous like that.
Something like
Something
that.
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, which means that, if you're Mercedes, you're losing 22% of a lot more horsepower than you are if you're Honda. You're losing 22% of that. It's the deficit shrinks as well.
Yeah.
So, engine parity doesn't.
but you
mean an
lose
awful lot.
aero as well, don't you? You lose aero because of the air being thinner.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to put on basically your full aero package for as you would at Monaco or Singapore. But you're
You're only
essentially-
getting the same amount
Monza
of
effect.
downforce as you get in Monza.
Yeah.
because the air's so thin. Yeah.
I mean, it's an interesting thought about the Red Bull. The question is, will we see Hamilton in a Ferrari in 2021? Will we see the engine? Will we see all the new regulations coming in 2021? That is going to be the question.
I think the engines are
idea.
going to stay the same by the looks of it, but I think the aero regs are going to be radically different.
I think we're going to see ground effect make a return small to start with. But
It'll be small in the regulations, but the longer that goes on, the more loopholes will be found.
yeah.
I don't think we're going to get back to the full sliding skirt ground effects.
But before we move on to
Loads
that, I
ones.
just want to say congratulations to Max Verstappen because that was a hell of a drive,
It's a good drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
an
drive.
awesome drive.
Faultless.
Yeah, yeah. I think Lewis Hamilton had him into that first corner, and Max decided he was going to outbrake him, and he did, and he managed it. And knowing full well that Lewis did not want to have an accident at that.
I
first
think
turn,
if Lewis Hamilton had won the championship, had already won the championship, or it was
They'd
early
had
in
a
the
fight.
season, they'd have had a massive accident.
Yeah.
Because Lewis would have tried to outbrake him, and there was
Lewis would have just turned in on him
it would have been it
and
would
let
have been
them have the accident.
yeah it would have been a crunch.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say much more than it was fantastic from Verstappen. Ricardo's clutch bearing. I mean, he's pissed off. He's had enough. Do you think he will come back for Brazil?
Yeah, of course he will.
Dan's probably right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that was. He does wear his heart on his sleeve a bit,
Hmm.
and normally he's smiley, but you see it sometimes when the races have really not gone his way and should have done. Monaco last year,
Yeah.
he gets upset. He shows it. He doesn't hide it. He was upset. He showed it. He didn't hide it.
And probably go off jet ski for a week and then turn up in Brazil and grin all over the place as
Yeah.
usual.
Yeah, we know how much the Red Bulls like to go around that track of Brazil, especially if it's a little bit wet.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, heroes and villains.
Villains were definitely Pirelli, or they should have gone one compound harder, or they should have. No, it's Pirelli. Sorry, yeah, it's Pirelli for choosing the wrong compounds.
So right, what without having a massive conversation about tires, what do Pirelli do? What do we? Are we bored of this? Soft tires to give us more pit stops, or do we just say, right, look, we need tires that are gonna last? Like either compound would last a full race.
It was just inconsistent at Mexico. Completely inconsistent.
Once again, mid-weekend, they put the minimum tyre pressures up again.
Yeah.
Just like they did in Austin, because they changed it for Saturday. And I think it was a 1.5 PSI increase this time, where it was only 1 in Austin. So that actually takes away all the development or all the data that the teams have gathered on Friday. So, I mean, Pirelli have got a completely thankless task to begin with, as we keep saying. But even with these mid-race weekend changes, it looks like even they don't know what they're doing.
I
I think to some extent they don't.
They don't
because
because there's no testing.
yeah, you turn up at the track, and if the weather conditions are a bit different to what you'd been predicting, then the tyre pressures that you've said are safe no longer are safe.
And even then, if they want to test, they've got to use an old car and.
Lucas Di Grassi or
No,
Pastor Maldonado.
no, Pirelli do have tests with current cars and current drivers during the season.
Yeah, no, but if I said if Pirelli want to do their own test, like test their own tires, there's no they can't like rope teams in or borrow a car or something like that. You know, there's outside
They can't
the
go to
allotted.
Mexico the week before the Grand Prix
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
right, we've done our testing.
Yeah.
These are the ranges that
Let's
are
not
safe.
forget when Goodyear and Bridgestone were doing a really good job, and Michelin were doing a good job of making tires. Apart from that one American one, which we won't talk about, there was cars like as soon as the race was finished, there was another car back at Woking or back at Silverstone, getting prepared to go to Silverstone to pound 200 laps in on the Monday after a race weekend.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's just not the tire
I
data.
suppose that's true. I mean, I read Mark Priestley's book,
Yeah.
and he was saying when he was on the McLaren test team, he actually covered more miles during that year than the race team did.
Yeah, it makes sense. I can't help but think that the best thing for Formula One would be with
For Lee to run it.
well, definitely, but with the new aero regs coming in, Ross Brawn to turn around and say, right, it's up to us to fix this, not Pirelli. Pirelli's job is to take out the compulsory pit stop shenanigans with the 2 tyres and build a tyre that will go for 72 laps without performance drop off. And it's our job to allow these cars to race and overtake each other.
But it's still a mandatory pit stop and change of compound.
Well,
Can do.
why do we have to have that?
Yeah, I that's what I mean, like one set of tyres for the race. One set of tyres with no performance drop off. So you build the compound so it can be fucking hammered for a race. Allow drivers to race flat out. That's what we want. That's all we ever talk about is we want to watch cars drive flat out. We're never going to see cars drive flat out for a whole race while they've got to worry about tyres going off.
Well, there's always management of something, though, isn't
Yeah.
there? That's the thing. And there has been since. I don't.
Yeah, but I think if you take out the tyre problem, then it's mechanical. So then
Yeah.
they'd have to fix it. You couldn't have, let's say Ferrari had slightly weaker brakes than Mercedes, so it ended up that by driving like that, Ferrari's brakes were starting to go
They
by
just
the
have
end
to
of the race.
develop them better.
They would have to fix the brakes to
Yeah.
race.
I actually like the idea of having tyres that last for the whole race because it fits with what the rest of Formula One is trying to do.
A sprint race.
They're trying to reduce costs
Yeah.
and they're trying to be more environmentally friendly.
Mm-hmm.
So having limited fuel flow
Yeah.
is more environmentally friendly because it makes you develop more efficient engines.
Mm-hmm.
Having tyres that last the race means that you need to take less tyres to the racetrack.
Yeah.
Where's the environmentally friendliness in having a tyre that is dead within 14 laps?
Yeah.
That all stems back to Bernie, isn't it? He's saying you don't want a tyre you can put on in January and take off in December.
But that's only if the cars can't race each other.
I mean, we did have the no pit stop, no tyre changes unless
Was that
it was a danger before.
2009?
That's what brought about the whole Indianapolis problem.
Was that then, was it?
Yeah,
Yeah, but
Because that was in the days of no tyre changes unless you get a puncture or.
I thought there was only one season of that, and I thought that was 09.
No, it was.
Earlier than that.
Was it?
Yeah, no, that was all part of the Indianapolis problem because one of the projected solutions or one of the suggested solutions for Indianapolis was let the Michelin runners stop
Yeah.
and make Michelin runners race
Well,
shorter.
I don't believe
than the
that's.
Bridgestones.
I don't believe that's a problem of making them use one set of tires. That's the issue when you've got a tire war, because Michelin went too aggressive to be the best tire.
Yeah, they brought the wrong tyres to that race.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't ban people from stopping for new tyres.
No.
Yeah, because I mean at the time it was typical Bernie heavy-handedness, and it was you will not stop unless one of them blows.
Yeah, I mean it's
Now you can,
stupid,
if
isn't
you
it?
make it, the tyre will last the full race. You can stop if you want, but you'll lose time.
Ralph Schumacher was lucky not to break his back that day.
Yeah.
Or die.
Yeah.
What about heroes? Let's get something positive in there after Bernie and Michelin
Sure.
bashing.
My villain's Bottas, by the way. But
I can't remember who it was that sent the message saying they can't wait for your Bottas rant this week.
well, I hope you enjoyed it. Heroes.
Mexican
Vettel.
fans.
Vettel,
Vettel for...
the drive of the day.
I'm not sure he put in the drive of the day, but going to congratulate the Mercedes
Yeah.
crew is a class act. Verstappen, fantastic drive. Van Dorn.
For getting points.
Yeah.
Just for racing and actually racing and passing cars.
Yeah.
You mean doing what he was brought in to do?
Did yeah.
Well,
Well,
but
done
Fernando
you.
Alonso hasn't managed to do it in the last 4 years.
No. Well done. Well done. You did your job.
I know you're a big fan of participation trophies. Here's a stat that somebody's actually just sent us on Twitter. They got it off Reddit. Fangio, Schumacher, and Hamilton.
Clearly lies.
I don't know. I think this might be true actually. Fangio, Schumacher, and Hamilton are the only F1 drivers to win 5 titles or more, and Mercedes has never entered a Grand Prix without one of them in the car.
Sorry, what was that?
Fangio, Schumacher, and Hamilton
Yeah.
are the only drivers to win 5 or more world titles.
Yeah.
And Mercedes has never entered a Grand Prix as a team without one of them in the car.
Oh, right, okay.
That's quite a good start. John Clark sent us that on Twitter just while we've been recording. Right, how did our predictions go?
Badly.
Badly.
Not
or-
quite as well as I'd hoped.
Bad-
It was looking good at one point.
It was looking good at one point for some of us, but badly for the most part.
Yeah.
Chris, Ricardo, Verstappen, Vettel,
It was almost going to happen, and then didn't.
then didn't. 2 points. Dan, Vettel, Raikkonen, Hamilton, 2 points. Lee, Hamilton, Verstappen, Ricardo, 1 point.
Not good.
Me, Hamilton, Vettel, and Verstappen, 4 points. I actually did the best out of all of us this week, because Sean got Hamilton, Verstappen, and Bottas, and 2 points. So I'm still in the lead.
2 points.
Sean got 2 points. 1 point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still in the lead on 60. Lee, you and Sean are tied for second on 55. Chris, you're on 53. Dan, you're on 48. 18 points to play for. It's still up for grabs.
I was just going to say, am I still in with a shot at the title?
You've got to make sure that you win next week and nobody else gets more than 7 points.
This is a similar story, isn't it?
And on our listeners' prediction table, let's just have a look. We didn't get another full house. Chris Mihai. Oh, no, sorry, I'm looking at Brazil. Who's the first one? Marcel Streak and Andy Hicks. Oh, and Ross Burrow all got 6 points.
I would
Oh,
like
they-
to
Out
put,
of possible 11.
Isn't he an insurance company?
I think he is.
I would like to put a Freedom of Information Act request out to find out how tall Chris Mihai is.
Predictions for Prediction League for Brazil is now open. I've changed it so you can now make your prediction right up to 5 minutes before the start of Q1.
Yep.
Just go to 3legs4wheels.com and go into the games section, and it's there, the 2018 Grand Prix Prediction League. It's just a trial run this year. We'll do a full season one next year, and there will be prizes. Actually, there will be prizes, if we don't get a sponsor for it, funded by our Patreon.
Yay!
If you go to patreon.com/3legs4wheels, you can donate and help us basically keep things going. Because all the money that comes in through that goes to paying for our hosting, which is magnificently done by Cloud Above.
Thank you, guys.
Paying for our software licenses, all the spare
Which we've
microphones
just had
that
to
we go
update
through.
tonight.
Yes, there was a software update, but it's bright red now and works better because the screen hasn't shut down while we've been recording.
Microphones,
cables.
stands.
Yeah. Bearing in mind, cables are the ones that take the most hammering here because Lee's got 2 cats.
Yeah.
So just go to patreon.com/3legs4wheels and donate anything from $1 a month up, and everything goes towards
Running costs.
running costs of the show. And I think like I say, we don't get a sponsor, we'll get some prizes this year.
Yes.
For next season. Right, is it total shunt time?
It is.
I better shut my laptop then.
I better shut my face
Yeah.
and turn away from your laptop slightly because I can almost see it.
Yeah.
Devices off.
What's your ASMR, people?
Oh,
Right. That wasn't too big a spike.
No, that's all right.
who sent this one in?
Hope no one heard my password then. This one was sent in by. Oh, did we have one from Eric Radstake? Stack.
That sounds a familiar name.
It does.
Maybe we had it.
Lee, unprepared.
If it starts I was born, we might have had it before.
Oh, by the way, just whilst Lee is trying to find a total
No,
shunt.
we haven't had this.
Total shunt.
Yeah, no, I'm sure.
Especially for Alexis Ferraris.
I was born
Yay.
in 1977.
41.
I am not the ultimate answer.
No.
My father, who wasn't very successful in racing, but whom I thank every day, he died in 2013.
Sorry, is there a comma in there?
No.
So you thank every day he died in 2013.
Oh, sorry, there is a comma. Don't worry.
Okay.
So I thank my father every day, and he died in 2013. Like Button's dad.
In my first,
He's not 41, is he?
Might be.
No.
No, because he was 20.
No,
when
he was born in,
started racing.
1980 because he was 20 when he first drove
Yeah.
for Williams.
he's a year older than me, I think.
I
Yeah.
think he's 2 years older.
2 years, is it? In my first racing season, I won 5 races, beating Andre de.
Cesaris?
Is that Cesaris?
Yeah.
Yeah, Andre
Yes.
de Cesaris.
Yeah, yeah. That is not the name for a dyslexic man.
Well, beating Andre de Cesaris wasn't very difficult if you were competing against him because he crashed and had more retirements than anyone in Formula One history. His retirement rate, I think, is something ridiculous, like 80%.
Is it really?
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Jesus. You don't even pass your driving test. Theory test with 80%.
No, I mean, he only finished 20% of his races.
Oh, good lord.
Yeah. I'll have to look that up again, but this number of retirements is laughable. It's actually hilarious.
How does Palmer's last season compare to that?
Ooh, that's a good point. Bearing in mind, De Cesaris was in Formula One for about 10 years.
And Palmer only did 80% of his last season.
Yeah.
I think we're going to need clue. No, that was clue 3, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'd like a guess, please.
Oh, balls. So somebody who's 41. So I think someone who'll have retired sort of about 7 to 10 years ago from F1.
If it's F1. I mean, driving against Andre de Cesaris and winning 5 races. If you were born in 77, De Cesaris was in Formula One mid-late 80s into... It's probably, I think he may have done a couple of races in the 90s.
So you're probably going to be looking at another series, maybe don't know, maybe IndyCar or something. Did he move to that?
He may have done. I know. I crash in Formula One all the time. Where's the best place for me to go?
Or something touring car-y.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to rush his.
For once, too young for Gary Paffett.
Yes. Should we say someone
Sorry,
like...
too old.
No, too young, isn't it? Oh, no. No. Sorry, too old.
Too
yeah.
old for Gary Paffett.
Alain Menu.
You don't get much more touring car-y than that.
No, you don't.
No, we'll go for that one.
I have won 7 championships in my racing career.
Lower formulas, tin tops,
Yeah.
tin pots.
Touring cars.
Also league and go-karts.
Okay, next clue.
I entered F1 in the year I became 18 years old.
1995.
When did Pedro Diniz start?
Hang on, I entered F1 in the year I became 18 years old. This does not compute. There were no 18-year-old drivers in 1995.
Unless it's not a driver and it's a thing.
I'm going back to the second question. My father, who I thank every day. That's some weird question phrasing there.
Yeah. I think we need the next clue just to get some clarification on this.
I was forced to stop racing in 1996.
So it started in 1995.
Well, entered Formula One.
Entered Formula One in 1995, aged 18, which was younger than the youngest Formula One racer.
Are we looking at a team, perhaps, that had ran into financial troubles after starting and then had to stop?
Like Pacific, maybe.
Yeah, I was thinking Pacific or 40.
Oh, God, yeah.
Simtech were earlier than that, weren't they? They were 93, 94.
Well, Ratzenberger was driving a Simtech when he died in 94.
Yeah.
I think they stopped in 95. Pacific, their big thing when they came into Formula One was they were trumpeting the fact that they had won every class of racing they'd entered a car in.
But not Formula One.
And then they also took part in a few Grand Prix weekends.
Thank you, Giovanni Lavaggi and Bertrand Gachot.
Shall we go for Pacific?
Pacific Formula One team.
Just before we do, what year did Tom Walkinshaw die?
Well, he was still in charge of Arrows.
In 2001.
Yeah.
But it was relatively recently, wasn't it? Like 2013.
Didn't even know Tom Walkinshaw was dead.
Oh, yeah.
He was Arrows when Damon was there, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was TWR Arrows.
Oh, yeah, Tom Walkinshaw Racing.
Yeah, but I think Arrows initially came in about 75.
Yeah.
Because they had some...
And
they had-
also 7 championships.
But he also owned a whole lot of teams. I'm not suggesting it's Tom Walkinshaw, but
that kind of
the whole...
vein.
My father, who I thank every day, died in 2013.
I'm going to put it out there. I have no fucking idea what that question is, if it helps.
All right.
I have no idea what relevance that has to what's going on.
I think it might be a red herring.
It may make sense when we get the answer.
Okay, so
Go with Pacific F1 for now.
Yeah.
Uh,
And your silver and pink cars.
after retiring from Formula One, I stopped racing completely.
I don't know.
Well, they went bust.
That was question 8 as well. You've got 2 left.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the sunk all the money into the F1 team and it was a complete failure because they were using I think they were using a 2-year-old Ford engine when they started.
Weren't they? Yeah. Yeah, I think they were.
Yeah, because I couldn't even get the Z-Tech.
I was much too heavy during my first season of Formula One, but with a lot of effort, I lost weight during the season.
Still sounds like a car to me. Sure, I read something about them being them stripping just about everything they could get away with off the car because they were well down on the timesheets.
1995 is when McLaren had 4 drivers, wasn't it, in that 1 year? Mansell, Blundell, Magnussen, and Hakkinen. Was it
Could have been, yeah.
Blew my tiny little mind playing the computer game trying to work out because I didn't really know a lot about Formula One. I was just getting into the sport then, really.
They had 4 drivers
How the
to choose from.
fuck have they got 4 drivers?
Yeah.
Why are 2 of them called Brundle? Oh, hang on.
How come one doesn't fit in the car?
Why is Jan Magnussen good for one race?
Yeah,
It's not like McLaren to get Magnussen in, be good for a race, and then turf him out, is it? History repeating itself.
I'll tell you what. If any of K-Mag's kids ever take up racing,
Oh dear.
they're gonna have one great weekend.
Their first weekend
I think it was
in a
just
McLaren.
it was just Ron Dennis's challenge to himself to see how many British drivers he could get through in a whole season.
Should we go for the next clue?
Your next and last clue. In a way, Pedro Diniz was responsible for starting and ending my career.
Did Diniz drive for Pacific? I know he drove for 40.
Yes, he did. I think he did, and then he took his money to Sauber.
No, I've heard it from good authority, being the internet, that all races back then, you couldn't put a piece of paper between the cars. There
There's no such thing as a pay
no
driver.
such thing as a pay driver.
Bullshit. 40 and Pacific were the fucking... They were worse than Manor. They were so far off the pace.
Were they worse than Marussia?
So far off the pace.
One of them, I can't remember which, was that bad they hired Taki Inui.
Oh,
I don't remember that. I remember Giovanni Lavaggi driving for Pacific, and it literally was a case of it was worse than Maldonado. Like, let's take bets on when during the qualifying hour they have to bring out the red flag because he's crashed. Pacific, I think, is a good shout.
I think. I'm just wondering now. Could it be 40? No, I think they might have been in earlier.
Trust your instincts, Pacific.
We'll go. Are you? Yeah. Shall we do it?
Yeah, why not?
Are you Pacific Formula One?
I'm 40.
No, you're not.
You're 41.
You, hey, I was on the right lines at
Yeah.
least.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I thought you were going to get that when you mentioned 40 as well.
40
just to be
and 95 and then ended in 96. I would have thought 40 were in slightly earlier than that.
That's what got me because I thought they came in
94-ish,
93,
93.
94.
Yeah. Bright yellow banana cars with Parmalat written on the side of
Yeah.
them.
Well, every Italian team had to have Parmalat on there somewhere when Parmalat was still a thing.
Is it not a thing anymore? Milk from Parma.
No, they went under in the same way that Enron did with all the false accounting, which is why Niki Lauda changed hats. Because Lauda basically had worn the same baseball cap for God knows how many years with a Parmalat sticker on it. When Parmalat went bust and stopped paying him, he carried on wearing the same hat, and he just put a patch over the logo. I think he'd had the same hat since 1984 when he was driving for McLaren.
That's fairly impressive.
And wore the same cap for about 20 years. Right, Formula Lee this week. You're going to hear a jump cut because of various technical gubbins. I'm going to have to put this together. after we've finished recording. So
We'll be back in a minute.
we'll be back in a minute. But this is what happened for Mexico in a Force India in the dry. In 20th place, we had Paul Robert Burley. 19th was Carrera05. Still need to get your real name because I've only just got your gamer tag on here. 18th was Jeff Sharp. Ken Lauderbach was 17th. 16th was Paul Lodge Simon, just being beaten by Nicholas Carline in 15th. Timmy Bristow got 14th place with Weitzer Camping 13th. Pete Bull 12th and James Holman 11th. Into the top 10, we have Michael J. Kellogg in 10th place, Alessandro Popolani in 9th, Ryan Kenner in 8th, Travis Parker was 7th, Alberto Roldan in 6th, Ollie Vesely in 5th, and Chris Olby in 4th. Top 3, Max Williams with a time of 1:14.433 in 3rd, Bradley Chambers 1:14.142 in 2nd, and this week's winner with a time of 1:13.116, beating everybody by over a second, was Will Coates. Congratulations, Will. So what's the Brazil challenge?
We haven't had a McLaren yet, have we?
Not on the new game, no.
No, so we'll have a McLaren in the wet in Brazil.
Oh, wet Brazil again.
It always rains in Brazil at some point.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
they have like the rainy season. And
It
Yeah.
always rains in Brazil at some point.
At some point in the year, it will rain.
it's always sunny in Philadelphia, but
Yeah, I only deal in.
Never
we don't
rains in
rain there.
never rains in Qatar. Unless it does.
Yeah.
yeah, what was it? The World Superbikes in Qatar last weekend had to get called off because of the first rain that they'd had all year.
Did Cal Crutchlow have a big off? I didn't watch it.
Yeah,
He's in hospital.
Came off, ended up in hospital, broken his ankle, and he's probably going to be out for the remaining 2 races of the season.
Oh well, at least he's safe.
But yeah, it was quite a nasty one. Right. How do people send in a total shunt? Because I forgot to mention that.
People can tweet me private messages and tell me them there. Yeah, private message me on Twitter.
And
What's
what
your
address
handle?
is that?
Oh, the address. Surely everyone listen to this knows I'm at a total shunt.
And as I said earlier, you can get hold of us, get hold of the show at 3 Legs 4 Wheels, or individually. The rest of us are
At Dan Dankleton.
At Flood21.
and at Pablo 100. I think that is probably about it because there's not a great deal of news. And
No, we already spoke about the Rich Energy Haas tie-in.
yeah,
Lewis Hamilton's world champion. That's about it.
yeah. Aside from just to say congratulations to Lewis Hamilton again,
Yep.
5th time's a charm. We'll be back next week where we will have a preview of Brazil, and hopefully I'll have a voice by then. So we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
I like Brazil. It's smooth.